Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good afternoon. We are now stood in the outer ward of the Tower of London, between the inner and outer defensive wall. Now the inner wall is 50 feet high. The outer wall behind you is 28 feet thick. The road to your left is called Mint Street, because until the year 1810, all the coins of the realm were designed and produced in these buildings. Now the buildings that house the mint are known as the casemates or housed within the walls. And now most of them serve as accommodation for some of my fellow Yeoman Warder colleagues, their wives, their girlfriends, their unwanted children, and their dogs and their cats. Now to your right is a tall, dark, narrow archway, known as a sallyport or royal entrance, beyond which was a small drawbridge leading out to the Queen's Stairs and directly down to the River Thames. Now, rather than travel through the narrow, packed streets of London, royalty and nobility would travel down the River Thames in their luxurious barges, tie up by those stairs to enter the tower. Those gates are original and date back over 750 years old. It was exactly, ladies and gentlemen, between that archway that King Henry VIII got down on one knee and so lovingly greeted his second wife, Queen Anne Boleyn, mother of Queen Elizabeth I. Now poor Anne was fated to return to the tower some 3 years later for a very different reason and through a very different gate. Right, come with me, follow me, chop chop. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now walking down the beautiful Water Lane. To my left is the back of the Queen's house. Discuss that building later in the tour. Right, gather in nice and close. Closer, good. We are now stood in front of the most famous, nay, should I say, infamous gate anywhere in the world. Traitors' Gate, which was built on the orders of King Edward I. Now it was during the Tudor period that it gained its notorious name Traitors' Gate, because if you're on trial at the Palace of Westminster or London's Guildhall and found guilty of high treason, you'd be brought down the River Thames in an old barge. As you passed under the old London Bridge, if you were to look up, you'd see the heads of other traitors on display. You then would have passed through these grim gates, where you'd be met at the foot of the stairs by the yeoman jailer and an escort of extremely handsome yeoman warders. Yes, I hear you all agree. You then would have been taken through the archway of the infamous Bloody Tower towards the dungeons or cells to await your fate. However, for most, it was a short journey directly down Water Lane to the top of Tower Hill, with a rendezvous with the executioner's block and axe. Now, amongst the many famous prisoners to be brought through these gates were no less than 3 Queens of England. Queen Anne Boleyn, who I mentioned earlier at the Bell Tower. Queen Catherine Howard, the 5th wife of King Henry VIII. Lady Jane Grey, the uncrowned queen of only 9 days. Right, now immediately behind you is the Wakefield Tower, originally known as the Blunderville Tower, in honour of a former constable. It has had many names over the decades. It has been known as the Jewel Tower because the crown jewels were safely stored in there since 1967. It was also known as the Hall Tower because the Great Hall once stood behind it. Now this tower is infamous because during the War of the Roses, after the Battle of Wakefield, 400 Yorkist prisoners were crammed in that lower dungeon and left there to rot. No food, no water. It must have been horrendous. Now in the upper chamber of the Wakefield Tower, that is also infamous, because that's where the Lancastrian King Henry VI was believed to be murdered, stabbed in the back on the 21st of May, 1471. Now Henry is fondly remembered as the founder of Eton College, Windsor, and King's College, Cambridge. Each year on the anniversary of his death, representatives from those two places of learning come to the Tower of London to lay posies of white lilies for Eton and white roses for King's, each tied with a ribbon in that college's colour. They're then laid at the spot where he is reputed to have died. Some 24 hours later, ladies and gentlemen, they are then collected by the keeper of the crown jewels and burned. Now immediately adjacent, no longer connected, is the infamous Bloody Tower, originally known as the Garden Tower. That sounds nice, doesn't it? No. Because it was in the Tudor period that its name was changed to the Tower of Blood, or Bloody Tower, to commemorate the many tragedies that have happened there. Surely the most tragic must be the alleged murder of the two boy princes. In 1483, the uncrowned King Edward V and his younger brother, Richard, Duke of York, aged 12 and 9. Their little bodies were smothered to death in the upper chamber of the Bloody Tower, whilst under protection of their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, who then became King Richard III. Now I'm about to lead you into the oldest part of the Tower of London. Follow me, let's go. As we're walking under the Bloody Tower archway, if you look up, you'll see the spikes of a portcullis or Norman dropgate. This one dates over 750 years old, weighs 2.5 tons. To the left, you will see a metal mooring ring. This signifies that the River Thames used to wash up against the base of the inner defensive wall, and boats would tie up and moor there. Follow me, folks. Good, kept up, well done. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, all of you, look behind you and you'll see the White Tower. Now it is the largest tower within this complex. Stands just over 90 feet tall. Walls are 15 feet thick at the bottom, tapering to 11 feet thick at the top. Now on each corner stands a turret, 3 are square, and in the far left-hand corner is the round turret. That is where the first Royal Observatory was established. Now on top of these turrets, you'll see a crown in gold leaf. Below that, a weather vane showing the royal standard. This denotes that this is still a royal palace. However, no longer a royal residence. The last monarch to reside in the White Tower was King James I in 1603. Now the royal family lived on the top floor with windows. On the floor below was a banqueting hall, a council chamber, accommodation for his knights and ladies, and the beautiful chapel St. John the Evangelist. On the lowest floor with windows was used for his servants and retainers. But there is a floor partly below ground. Some of it used for stores and provisions. Most of it was used as a dungeon and torture chamber. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are all currently standing on Tower Green, the village green of the Tower of London. But unlike most village greens, ours is unique. You may have a bowling lawn, a tennis court, even a cricket pavilion. But we have our very own private execution site. Yes, that small glass pillow and memorial should not be confused with the public memorial site on Tower Hill. This memorial represents and remembers 3 Queens of England, 2 lords, 2 ladies, and 3 soldiers that were executed right there. Now, immediately down the cobbled path leads you to the entrance of the infamous Bloody Tower. Further to your right is a black and white Tudor building known as the Queen's House. It's called the Queen's House because guess what it is? Yes, it is the Queen's House. Now, that building has been the home to some important officers and prisoners throughout its time. Now, the last state prisoner to be held in the Queen's House was Rudolf Hess, the deputy leader of Nazi Germany. But he was only held here for 3 days in May 1941, because during the Blitz in World War II, they decided to move Hess into the country for his own safety and the remainder of the war. The Queen's House now serves as the home to the Constable of the Tower, who is a former general of the British Army, and he serves here in the Tower of London as Her Majesty's representative. Now, there are 37 Yeoman Warders that live here in the Tower of London at all times. Now, should one of us become poorly, which could happen very soon, we would go to the blue door directly behind me, because that's the residence of our Tower Doctor. Now, if I get really poorly, I go to the blue door to his right, because that's the Tower Chaplain. And he has the shortest commute of anybody in the whole of the City of London, because he works right next door in the beautiful Chapel Royal St. Peter ad Vincula. 1 day a week. Best job in the Tower. Now, further to your right, ladies and gentlemen, is the Waterloo Barracks, built on the site of the Grand Storehouse, which was destroyed by fire. This building was erected in 1845, built to house 1,000 soldiers of the Tower garrison. It has now become the home to our national treasures. The crown jewels and royal regalia have been safely stored within its walls since 1967. Now, at the far end of the square is the home of the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, an old infantry regiment that was formed here in 1685. You can go on their ground floor and visit their museum. Right, enough of the buildings. We are Yeoman Warders. Our nickname is Beefeaters. Now, to become a Yeoman Warder, you have to serve a minimum of 22 years in Her Majesty's Armed Forces. You must obtain the rank of Sergeant Major, which might make me seem rather scary. You must also hold the Long Service and Good Conduct Medal. If you have these 3 prerequisites, that just means you can apply to become a Yeoman Warder. Now, predominantly, Yeoman Warders, we were made up of the British Army, but we do have 5 from the Royal Navy. We also have 5 from the Royal Air Force. We have 3 Royal Marines. They are instantly identifiable because they normally like wearing pantaloons and ties. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it's all good. We're all a family, we all live here. We have our own doctor, our own chaplain, but most importantly, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have our very own pub. It's beautiful. And no, you're not invited. You must be a resident or a guest of a resident. And I don't know any of you that well yet. Ladies and gentlemen, that nearly concludes my guided tour. I hope you've enjoyed it today. My name is Beefeater Scott Kelly, Yeoman Warder official title, or Beefy 409. Have a good day. God bless.